Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome, warm welcome to my YouTube channel. Now I may have to answer the door because there's only me here and I'm expecting UPS, so if I go quiet you know why, so I do apologise for that. I'm going to use my snippet stencil clock, so I'm going to use this one. It's a lovely size. Let's move that out of the way or else I'll stamp on that. And you also get the cutout piece as well. So let's bring in, I'm using a piece of 4x6" Pink Frog super smooth card. And I'm just going to sort of add my, where do I want to add him? A little bit of debris as usual on my desk. So I think we'll add him about there. And because these stencils are 4x4, the 4x6" cardstock that we use is perfect. So I'm then going to use some low tack tape just to anchor that down, just so that I don't get any of my paint anywhere that I don't want that. Now, if any of the paints are out of stock, I have placed an order, so they should be back in stock again very soon because I spent the day yesterday sorting out the restocks. You can also get free postage. Now, if you place an order this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I won't be posting until Monday as I'm going away for the weekend, as it's my birthday next week, so I've got a weekend away. So just to say thank you, if you use the code FREEPOST at checkout, you'll get free UK standard postage. And it's on orders £20 and above. So I'm going to use the paints. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of do a little bit. So I've got a little bit of cut and dry foam and I'm going to use the same piece in cut and dry foam throughout. I'm not going to use several pieces. You can use car sponge, dishwasher sponge, any sponge you've got, blending tools, it doesn't matter. So I'm using ruby paint. So let's take a little bit of ruby. Now I've ordered some ruby paint and I'm going to add a little bit of ruby just at the top there. You can do this with your pencils, your watercolour, but I just want a nice simple method just to colour the chicken. So I've added some chicken, hen, whatever you want to. So I've added some of the orange there, and then I'm going to take some tangerine. I do have tangerine in. And I'm starting with a very small amount of colour. I'm not using much of the colour. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of orange and I'm blending into that red. So you can see I've still got the red on my cut and dry foam, which is absolutely fine. And I want that colour in there, which is just what I want. And then I'm going to use some cocoa or any brown that you wish to use. Let's grab a little bit of kitchen roll just so we haven't got too much moisture. And then I'm going to add cocoa. Now I like simple methods, so that's exactly what I'm going for. So I'm going to use a little bit of cocoa. And yes, I've still got that orange and red in there. And I'm just going to add. Now what'll happen is, because I've got that red and orange in there, it just sort of tints the brown a little bit. And can you see I'm just using a little bit of a tapping motion, and that will blend the colours for me. And as I've got less and less paint on there, I'm just dabbing a little bit harder, and then I'll just add a little bit of brown to the top and the side of there, just a little bit. So you can see I'm colouring it in a very simple way, just because that's what I like. Just nice, simple way. So I've kept the same cut and dry foam throughout. Now, what about the legs? Shall we get a little bit of lemon? So we'll get, and you can see I've still not changed my cut and dry foam. So I'm going to take a little bit of the lemon. You don't need much of the lemon. My cut and dry foam's not the best, as you can see. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the lemon. And I'm just going to add that to the foot area. And it's still got that sort of brown in there as well. So it really sort of tones down the lemon a little bit because it's got those other colours in there as well. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to the brown that's up here and just, I've not added any more brown. I'm just blending so it's a little bit lighter here. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that brown. I've not added any more paint yet. I'm just keeping it as it is, just so it's a little bit faded, if that makes sense. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit of the yellow, and I'm going to sort of add a little bit of yellow just to tone the brown down a little bit, so there's other colours in there as well. So shall we have a little bit more lemon? So let's take the lemon, and you can see that I'm going for easiest ways possible. My paints are so old. I've had them years. So I'm taking the lemon again, and I'm working in that into my cut and dry foam. And I'm just going to add a little bit of lemon, just so there's a few more little tones of that colour. And I'm dabbing really lightly now. So I'm just dabbing that really lightly. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean this up so we don't get lots and lots of mixes of colours, because then I want my brown again. So let's take the umber, and you only need a little bit of paint at a time. Don't pull out too much of that paint. So I'm going to pick up the umber, and it's still got a little bit of lemon in there. And I'm just using a dabbing motion because it just brings a little bit of texture to my painty design. So I'm just bringing a little bit of texture to the design. So it's not all one colour. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit more life to it with a few more colours blended in there. Now this is my chicken, so I can do it however I wish. I'm just picking up a little bit more. So I've got a few sort of different tinges of colour in there, which is lovely. Now, I think I need a little tiny bit more orange. There we go. So let's wipe up that moisture again. And then you can wash out your sponge and reuse it, whichever you use. But I tend to find by sort of doing that dabbing motion, I do get a real nice blended look. Now I want a little bit more orange, sort of going into the red, so sort of orangey brown. There we go, just so it's just got a few more colours going in there. Lovely. So I'm going to grab my heat tool. I'm just sort of going to waft the heat tool over the paint. I'm not heating it too much, just so that the paint is a little bit dry. So let's just make sure that isn't not going to end up with too much of a gap. There we go. I can hear things rattling because I'm dabbing the desk. I'm then going to take a little bit of dark umber pencil. I'm just going to take a little bit of dark umber pencil, and I'm just going to sort of add a little bit of sort of detail, just so it's got a little bit of detail just in here. So I'm just adding a little bit so we can add a little bit of detail. It's not, you know, it's not professional, it's just a little bit of detail, just so that we've got that sort of slight impression of some feathers. And I'm doing this sort of doodly, if that makes sense. I'm making this very doodly. I'm not sort of being strict on myself. I'm sort of making it very doodly. So don't be too harsh on yourself. So I'm just making it so there's some slight markings on there, as if there's a suggestion of some markings of some feathers. So let's get some orangey colour. Now don't be too strict on yourself. I'm no botanical artist or anything like that. I'm just doing what I enjoy. I'm not doing anything, you know, I'm not being too, oh, got how many pencils in there, strict with myself, because, you know, I don't know the perfect placement of everything. So I'm just enjoying myself. I'm using yellowed orange PC1002, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that colour as well. And I'm just adding a few little dashes, if you like, just to give a suggestion of some detail in there, just so it looks like we've got a little bit of detail. So I'm adding a little bit of this yellow orange just to give another layer of that colour. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit of this dark umber 947. Let's just bring a little bit down there, just so that we emphasise the edge a little bit. So the pencils, all they are doing is just adding a little bit of detail, just a little bit of detail, as if we've got a little bit of texture on there, just so it's not so one dimensional. It's a little bit more textured. So don't be too strict on yourself. Oh, it should be done this way, or it should be done that way. You're just adding a little bit of texture so that it's not so one-dimensional. That's all you're doing. And we can pretend that those are, it's feathers. So I'm adding a little bit of this yellowed orange 1002, because that just gives it a little bit more dimension as well, so that it's not just the paint, it's got a little bit more texture in there. And if you want, you could quite easily sort of come in and you could add a few touches of white. It's entirely up to you, just to give a little bit of lightness. Just to give a little bit of texture in there. Now, I am not being precise. You know, I'm just giving it a little bit of texture. And a little bit of detail, just so that it's got a little bit more life in there. So it's entirely up to you how you do that. Let's have a little bit of dark just down here, just so we've got a little bit more detail, a little bit more dark there. So I've mainly done that with paints, so I've not really added much of anything else. I've mainly done that with, and we can always lift this now and have a look at what we've got. So let's take the low tack tape off. And at least then you know, I've got a piece of cotton there. Goodness knows what, how have you got a piece of cotton there? So I can use my wipes then just to wipe the stencil. And obviously this is the paint's a little bit more dried because I used the heat tool slightly, but it's not a problem. It all comes off anyway. Just hold your stencil if you're going to go by those feet and drag it sort of in the direction of the stencil, if that makes sense. You can obviously have a bowl of water ready if you wish. And I can clean that a little bit more later on. But it's got the majority of paint on there. So now I'm going to sort of add a little bit more detail just to the outside. It is quite nice with the paint because it's feathered. So because it's feathered, it works really nicely. Because you've got that feathering on there. I'm coming in a little bit firmer just to make sure you've got sort of it's a little bit more feathered, so Make sure it looks like there's some sticking out here, just so that it's got a little bit more life, if you like. It's not sort of quite so one-dimensional. There we go. And if I look through the camera, it works rather nicely. But the problem with me is I could play such a long time, and it's just you can tell I'm having far too much fun. I want it quite so lined. And then if I use that yellowed orange just to bring in a little bit more I'm just bringing in that yellowed orange just to soften it a bit. Just makes it look a little bit more textured and not quite so one-dimensional. And I like that. I'm going to add a little bit of white. Just to, and I'm just playing, I'm doodling, if you like. I'm literally doodling. And it just, how long can you play? Well, you'll be surprised. Tracy could play forever. Just adding some of this white in, just to give it a little bit more scratty texture. Does that make sense? So a little bit more scratty texture. Let's have a look at that in camera. Oh yes, just so it's a little bit more textural. There we go. Wonderful. I've now got that now. I've now got the stamp set, the text stamp set from TE45, which is really grotty, so let's give it a little bit of a clean. And I'm going to add a little bit of text now to my chicken. You see, I'm just thinking, I want it a little bit. Oh, stop messing, Tracy. I need to stop messing. I can't help it. So I'm going to add a little bit of text just to my little chicken. Lovely. So it just gives it a little bit more texture. And then you can also, you can sort of, no, I'm happy with that. Stop messing, stop messing. So I now need TE32. So let's take TE32. I'm going to take the oblong stamp. Now, if I do this, I'm going to stamp straight through the legs, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to take a piece of copier paper, take my stencil. We got a pencil. Pencil. Come on, where are you? That'll do. And I'm going to create myself a mask. And really, if I'd done any prep, I would have had this done. But I haven't. There you go. I don't really need it to be perfect, so, well, trust me, it isn't, because I'm not even holding the stencil properly for a start. There we go. Still paint on there, look. Where's the scissors? So I'll just cut this out. Now I could have stamped the oblong and then added the chicken on the top, but I didn't know at that time that I wanted that oblong. So it is what it is, and I'm cutting out a little mask. Now with the mask, you use your masking sheets or your copier paper, because you don't want to cut that out of thick card, or else you'll leave a ridge when you come to stamp. There'll be a little gap, and you don't want that. There we go. So I'm sort of cutting the feet out, if that makes sense. It's not going to be super precise. I'm not that critical. Now this is going to somebody knocking at the door, because I can hear it. Are they going to knock on the door? Bear with me. It's okay, it's actually my hobby on the drive, so maybe you'll be able to answer the door for us. So let's cut that out. I think it's him anyway, he went in that car. There we go. Let's cut. So I'm just cutting the feet out just so I can add my little rectangle. And like these feet are just going to lie flat, I don't think so. There we go. That's it. So let's just sort of bend those, and then we can place our mask over the top. It's good enough for me. I'm not that strict on myself. I'm then going to take the Nocturne ink. Let's take that Nocturne ink, and then I'm going to add, actually do you know, I've done all that. I was going to put it straight through, and then I'm thinking, shall I just put it? Do you like how I don't know? So let's place that on there. And I'm just going to sort of, oh, for goodness sake, nobody faffs like I do. I know they don't. Let's place it there. All this for an oblong. I mean, come on. But I wanted him, sort of standing on something. I didn't want him floating in midair. That's just me being a bit precise, but I didn't want him floating in midair. And for me, the main thing is you can tell it's a chicken, you know, so let's, and then I can just join where I've just missed a little bit. We don't stress, we can just join that a little bit. So let's place that back like so. Have I got, it's remembering where every single stamp is. Where is, I don't know. Bear with me. I have to see, I have to remember which ones have got which words on. Ah, there we go. You also have to remember that that Nocturne ink is just glistening on there because you've got that oily ink on top of paint, on top of waxy pencils. It's never going to dry. Give that a little dry, or else it's just going to sit on the surface and you're going to smudge that, which is such a shame. And then we'll doubly make sure, that's a professional term, doubly make sure. It's really good English. Just give that a blot. There we go. So you can see the eye faff as well. If you wanted to, you could do a journal page and you could easily sort of stamp him going in the opposite direction. You know, there's so many possibilities. I want to use him next, I think. So I'm going to use, do you know, I've put the stamp back, TE32. You saw me put it back, but I didn't put the stamp back. Do you think my brain's working on January the 2nd? Not at all. Let's put that down here. There we go. So I've got this lovely, Our Feathered Friend. I adore that stamp. That's it. So now I can add that into my oblong. You could quite easily have this a picture or a journal page, whatever you want. So just give that a little bit of time. He's woke the dog up as well. I can hear her squeaking because it'll be food time. So now we've got our feathered friends in there. So it looks grounded, doesn't it? I really, really like that. Now I want to finish by adding a little bit more detail, she says confidently. So what I'm thinking is, I'm masking it and I've got no idea what I'm doing, but I'll just add the mask anyway, like you do. So I've got to use him soon. He is just one of my favourites. Let's place that behind the acetate. And then I was thinking, where's the berry stamp? Actually, like I ask you where the berry stamp is, if you're going to answer me. So if I take TE55, the berries. Now the good thing about the berries is you can use it all year round. You can make it Christmassy, you can make it wintry, you can make it all year round because there's berries on so many different foliage plants. So let's grab this berries here. And what colour are you going to use, Tracy? Well, I'm going to pick out those sort of reddy, yellowy colours. So let's grab this. Looks like the perfect tin, doesn't it? Yes. So I've got like my little oxides, which are now have become a real staple in my collection of craft products. There we go. So I'm going to take, what we're going to take, spit it out. Let's have some sort of orangey red. Do you like that? Orangey, yeah, this'll do. So we're going to use wild honey and ripe persimmon. So I'm going to use the wild honey. And I'm hoping the placement will be okay and I don't have to cut an oblong out now that I've just put it away. So then I'm going to, actually let's just add a little bit more ink. There we go. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the ripe persimmon. There we go. And then we're going to go for, let's make sure we don't have to cut another. Mask out. Let's add a few berries there. And you can see I'm just enjoying myself having a little play. Oh, yes. So let's take, again, we're going to take the wild honey. What a lovely colour. Then we'll take a little bit of the ripe persimmon.
Post office was busy.
Oh, was it? I'm just doing a video. That's my husband telling me that the post office was busy because we had to go with some more parcels. It's like a Royal Mail office in my house at the moment. But he didn't know I was doing a video. He went to the Royal Mail and I said, oh, I might do a video. So if I don't confirm I'm doing a video properly, everybody just talks to me. So we'll just add some more berries here as well. And we'll just drop it on our project. Can you see, it's looking more sort of finished, if you like, but we're not quite finished yet. So let's, there we go. So what I'm going to do then is, I could do with something a little bit more ready now. Red in colour, ready. That's not R-E-A-D-Y, which is the way I'm saying it. So let's just grab the other ones that got more reds in. I love the fact I can just go to my little tins and they're all sort of prepped. Let's just place that there. So I'm going to grab some of the festive berries here, which will be quite nice. And shall we have a little bit of spiced marmalade so we still keep in with some of that orange. So spiced marmalade. And then we're going to use a little bit of festive berries. Just to add a little bit of the, I just keep dropping everything, have you noticed? It is the 2nd of January, it takes me a bit to get going, so you just have to bear with me. So, I'm now going to sort of, are you going to put that there, Tracy? Yeah. I'm now really just playing, just to add some more, that's lovely, detail. That festive berries is lovely with the, wrong one, Tracy. Oh yeah, I did that spice marmalade. And then a little bit of the festive berries. Now, we dropped a little bit down here, didn't we? Well, not we, you're the royal we, just me. I dropped a little bit, didn't I? So we don't worry about things like that, do we? We go, no, it's berries, it's nature. So let's just sort of overstamp a little bit. There we go, it doesn't matter now. And I've got those berries on there and it just sort of finishes that off rather nicely, don't you think? I think it does. And now to bring in, let's just clean that, because this is my stamp that's been stamped with Oxides, and you don't want to leave that oxide on there. But there, look at this, another idea. You could add the chicken onto your page, not colour it much, and just add berries all the way in it. Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? So there's another idea for us. It straight away, that gives me another idea. Not adding much colour to the chicken, but just adding berries. Just lovely. Just another idea. So let's take, actually I might try that. Let's take, have we got something that is a brown colour now? So I'm going to look at the browns, and I'm going to use that ground espresso. Now, if you're asking yourself, why are you taking the brown, Tracy? Because I've got the colours here, which I've picked up this colour here and brought into the background. I want to pick a little bit of that brown. So this is ground espresso. And what I love is I can just come in and I can just pick one berry if I wish. And I can just add the odd berry in the brown here and there. And then if you've made a little bit of a hash, you know, if like me, you've dropped your stamp, well, it doesn't matter one bit, does it? Because you can just go over the area and it's not a problem. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the odd sort of brown berry just to bring in the brown just from the background of the chicken. So I'm just bringing in a few of those berries. And what happens is Tracy just enjoys herself too much. So let's bring in another facing, where have you gone? Facing that way. So I just bring in a little bit of those brown berries just so that it works quite nicely. But you see, where's my, let's grab, I've got to do this. So if you wanted to, you could literally, let's just move this out of the way. I mean, let's take the festive berries, move that out of the way a little bit. Just getting sidetracked now. So that's spice marmalade. This is festive berries. But you could literally add your berries just around. Now I'm doing this very quickly because I can't resist. You could take the festive berries. Got my hand in the way. I've not masked anything off, but you've got the berries in there. Now let's grab a little blending tool. So let's grab a little blending tool and grab your festive berries. So what I'm doing now is I'm showing you that from doing one project, you can come up with another idea. And this is what I love about being creative. Now I'm going to try and do this with one hand, not a chance. So let's bring in, so that was festive berries and spiced marmalade. And just bring in a little bit of the spiced marmalade. Then we'll go back and we'll add a little bit darker. Shall we add a little bit of the candied apple? Now this is me just playing. It just gives me other ideas. Just to play with my stencils, etc, etc. It just gives me other ideas. Obviously you would mask off the area. I'm not doing that because I'm just showing you some quick ideas. Let's grab a little bit of brown. Then we'll grab, whoa, she says as she nearly falls over, a little bit of the brown. What brown did I use? It was ground espresso, wasn't it? So let's take a little bit of the ground espresso. And then, oh, and then you can move your stencil. So then I'm going to come in with the brown, which is a nice dark colour. Now in the fine detail brushes, I've got those fine brushes, so you could come in with a little bit of the brown with the fine detail brushes, quite easy. So let's lift this, and now you've got another idea. How wonderful is that? The simplest ideas, just delightful. Then you could use the same brown, use the ground espresso, and then you could just add a little bit of text here and there. You don't have to be precise. Just remember to clean that stamp because you've got that oxide on there. So with me playing around, you instantly come up with another idea. And it's about playing. And this is what I adore about stamps and stencils. And let's face it, you know, I just have basic ideas, but it's just fun. It's great fun, the way you can use your stamps and stencils. I just love it, absolutely love it. Now, I want to add a little bit of shading around here. Now, there's two ways you can do that. You can just do it by adding the grey around there, or you grab a blending brush, you take your cutout piece that you now have no idea where it is. There it is. So let's grab our little mini oxides again. Let's use this pumice stone. Oh, crikey. Yes, you too can get the lid off. It's when you first go to them, they're really on there. But look at that. Even if you wanted to do the chicken like this, but only add those at the bottom, then add the word chicken across the top. I just love it. I love how you can come up with so many ideas. So let's take this, leave that on there, and then I'm going to take the pumice stone. So let's take that pumice stone. Got lots of ink on there. Start on the cutout, and then we can just add a little bit of shading with the pumice stone just around our little, or not so little, chicken. And yes, I'm well aware that the berries are distress, but that just softens the edge a little bit. And I'm not pressing on really hard. I'm just pressing on very gently, just so that it adds a little bit of shading around there. See, now we've sort of started 2 cards at the same time, haven't we? So let's just sort of bring in TE49 again. And you've got the word chicken. And you can see I'm enjoying my stamps. Where's the... Let's just clean that because we've used that oxide again and you want to be aware of that. So let's put the berries stamp back. Then we'll take that chicken word. Take our Nocturne ink. And you can add the word chicken there. Like so. Again, you could also add a floral to this if you wish. Just make sure your hands are clean. What I'm going to do then is take my little grey Inktense pencil and just add a little bit of shading just at the base there. Grab a little bit of water and let's just... Now don't forget you've got that oxide on there, so I'm sort of tickling that just so that it's... And let's add a little bit of shading around here. Just blend that out. So we've got a little bit. There we go. And then we want to add that chicken so that it's got a little bit of grounding on there. And obviously you could leave it quite sort of plain and simple if you wish. Now the idea is that I give you lots of inspiration with your cards. Let's add some splatters. Now I don't want to add any on the word. So let's add a few splatters. I love how he's got some texture on there, that's rather nice. You've also got a lovely sort of clean and simple idea if you wish. Right, what do we add? We can add to this. There we go. Let's grab TE26. And that's why I love how everything can be mixed together. So then, I haven't got a card blank for this one, but you'll understand. So then I can take TE26. I spent half my time fighting with acetate. There we go. So now I can add a floral if I wish. Yes, I like how it curves. So we take our little mask, which has come in handy really, because it's given us an idea for another card, but it's worked out really well. So let's place the pumice stone back, and let's grab a little. Let's grab a few colours, but this time we're not going to use pencils to colour. We're going to use our oxides. So what I'm going to do, trying to keep everything in camera, let's move that away. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take, spit it out Tracy, mustard seed, and you're going to go all over your floral with mustard seed. So pretend, so that's your light colour. Normally I would go dark to light, but there you go, I haven't. So I'm going to go lumberjack plaid. So let's go lumberjack plaid. I'm not worried that it's on my acrylic blocks. I've got lumberjack plaid next. And then I'm going to use spiced marmalade. So I'm colouring with my minis. So spiced marmalade. So you've got a little bit of spiced marmalade on there. And then like you would with your pencils, to blend everything, you take your lightest colour. And you sort of blend the edges with your lightest colour. I could go in with my blending brush and dab that, but I don't want to dilute the colours too much. So I don't want to dilute those colours too much. I want to have the vibrancy. There we go. So I'm just colouring with the Oxide minis themselves. I'm not using any pencils. There we go. And I've got a beautiful blend on the floral. Now what you can do is, can you see I've just slightly not gone far enough. So I'm just going to sort of use a little pencil. Oh, it's the tiniest amount. So I'm just sort of adding a little bit of a pencil mark there. There we go. Then do I want to add another one? Yes, I do. So we're going to take that again. So let's take our little chicken again. And we'll faff forever because that's me all over. Then we'll just wipe our acrylic block and we'll use the same colours again. So I'll use that mustard seed because it gives me a lovely light base. Mustard seed. Then I'm going to use lumberjack plaid. So take the lumberjack plaid. And I'm colouring with the smaller ink pads. Then I'm going to take the spice marmalade, go into the lumberjack plaid, and I'll probably come back a little bit more with that lumberjack plaid because I went a little bit far with the orange. That's better. Then I'll come in with a little bit more of the mustard seed, and then we'll stamp again. So I'm going to add that just nearly. Oh, it doesn't matter if I miss a little bit, does it? There we go. That's it. So I've then got the florals on there. Now I just need to give that little flour a wipe, just so that we don't end up with that oxide on there. And then when I come to use my VersaFine Clay, it's got that oxide base on there, and you don't want that. But the patterns you're building on here look lovely as well. So again, just a little bit there. So we'll make it so it does join, so you can see. And then, what are you doing, Tracy? Where's the... This is where Tracy faffs a little bit. I want a little bit, I know, just a fuss pot. Because my stem is all on here, because the stamp's only a certain length, I'm just going to add a little bit of stem at the bottom. So let's take a little bit of the yellow, and then a little bit of the lumberjack plaid, just so it doesn't look like it's an afterthought, which it is, but it doesn't matter. So stay on there. So let's just, oh, where's my... So let's just add a little bit of a stem. It doesn't have to be the same length. There we go. Just so we've got that. That's better. Looks more considered now. So then you've got your two designs, just using your clock stencil. And then I'm going to add a little bit of shading just around the florals. So let's grab the paintbrush. Let's make sure that we blend that out, just so that it's got a little bit more dimension. There we go. Just gives the florals a little bit more dimension, which is wonderful. Then we'll add some splatters. We'll make sure they don't go on that word. Lovely. Then we can just mat and layer these, which makes a big difference, I feel. So we'll add this to our black mat because it makes a big difference. So let's grab my adhesive. And yes, Tracy does need to fill her adhesive up. I actually use far less adhesive now using these applicators, far less. So can't I emphasise that enough? There we go. It always looks lovely when they're matted and layered. Then we'll add that to a 5x7 card blank. Make sure it opens the right way. When you mat and layer that, it works quite nicely. This could so easily be in your journal, quite easily. That's better. A couple of little marks on there, so we'll just, there we go. Then I've got a black mat for this, but I haven't got a card blank because I didn't plan on creating a toofy. So let's add do you know those florals look delightful just coloured with Oxides? They really do. So easy as well, but beautifully blended in a nice simple way. So obviously if that was added to a white card blank, can you see how beautiful it looks? Just wonderful. Really looks lovely. And then you've got the one that's got lots of texture on there as well. But I'm really pleased with those, really pleased with those. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy a little bit of creative time with me for yourself in the new year. And I just love those. So happy new year everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.